It's off to the West. It's
Let's go
off to the
west.
West, where
Let's go west.
I feel like, you know what, looking on it again, I feel like this has the high likelihood that we're not in unison with most of the positions because it's a bit of a dice roll. So we're starting at 6 again. Um, Teams that I considered, the Lakers, all right, because it's not like they're not good enough to do it, but a part of me was hesitating. They've got a new coach. They haven't done much else with the roster, and LeBron is older, and AD is always a health risk. A part of me fell off on that. New Orleans just picked up DeJounte Murray. They've essentially got 4 notable players. It should be quite interesting. But Zion's health makes me wary again as well. Houston, are they going to push out of that weird play-in slot and just go straight into there? But 6 feels a little bit higher for the West. Um, Golden State, can they run it back? I just don't think they did anything in the offseason that makes me feel like they're better than what they were this season. Sacramento, I actually just remembered Sacramento existed right now. It's I put Memphis here. I put Memphis because I think they're going to catch teams off guard because they were so bad last season with their G League lineups that people are going
So
to
you
be
got
like,
Memphis at
oh,
six.
yeah, Ja Morant, we have to scout for him.
You have Memphis at 6.
So I think Memphis is 6. I think Memphis, assuming they stay healthy, I actually really like the Zach Edey draft pick. I think they've been able to develop some of their role players, and their bench is going to be a little bit stronger because of it. And they bring back their big three, and again, they'll catch people off guard because people have forgotten about Memphis.
Look, you basically named all the usual names that are knocking on that door, right? For number 6, especially in the West. I just pulled out the standings here. Last season between 6th and 10th was 3 wins. Yeah, 3 wins, and obviously a lot of tiebreakers to consider there in that sort of situation. So after 82 games, 3 wins is really nothing. And yeah, look, it was. I really felt like I wanted to put the Warriors somewhere in the 6th. I don't have them in the 6th. You could make a legit candidate, like you said, with the Pelicans that they could, move up a few more wins there and into that. But no, I don't have them there either. Look, at the end of the day, I got a team that's sliding backwards now at number 6. So I got the Denver Nuggets at number 6. They clearly feel like they're continuing to lose some depth from that championship core. You got Jokic there that is the staple of the team, right? And does everything there. But you're the one that said last week, I think like Jamal Murray, something wrong with him. I don't know whether
It's the
that's
knees.
yeah, I don't know whether that's right
Feel it on
or
my
not,
knees.
but they do need Jamal Murray to play to much more than ever now with what they have on the roster in that sort of sense. And yeah, look, I think the Nuggets could still win 50 games, which would be a step back from last season, and finish 6th in the West.
I have Denver in my list, slightly higher than this though. So this is going to feel odd as a Suns fan, but I'm saying that the Suns finish 5th again. Um, Booker and KD, I think KD played more games than Booker last season, and that's not good for your all-star health. And then Brad Beal never touched the floor. I feel like we're relying a lot on health for us to be competitive, but we're again rolling it back with a new coach and a couple of new role players. And I think we slot in a little bit to Philadelphia in the West. That's how I feel about them. And so my logic was, well, I put 76ers 5th, I'll put the Suns 5th, but also the 4 teams above them just have a little bit more continuity in my list. So that was my rationale for Suns of 5.
Well, glad you at least got them in your 6th there somewhere there. Because I got number
Oh, you
five.
got to be kidding me.
I've got the Houston Rockets at number 5. Um,
Oh, that's ridiculous. That
I
is
I I
unbelievable.
think they're poised for a leap, man.
A
And
huge leap.
I think they're poised for a huge leap, and that's what young teams are poised to do. Yeah, did we not see this with the Thunder the last 2 3 years that they took that leap? And are we not hoping as Magic fans that maybe the Magic takes that leap if we have not taken that leap already? Like, I think there's some level of reality that the Rockets are only going to get better. They've added some more young talent. Their young talent that they already had continues to mature, and I can't see them going backwards. Yeah, barring crazy injuries or something like that. Okay. So I think the Rockets here. I guess I'm predicting they make this leap this season, and obviously I've got them at number 5.
That's a huge jump. and now it means you snub someone, which I feel like it's going to be Phoenix, but we'll see. At number 4, I have the Denver Nuggets, slightly higher than what you had them at 6. Again, I also feel like the West, based off last season as well, not many wins separated, first and third was down to the last game of the season essentially. So I think you can really shuffle these teams in a lot of different ways. But I've got Denver here because the Jamal Murray asterisk is huge, and they continue to hemorrhage role players, potentially due to poor management, potentially due to the fact that salary is just getting them. But the reason why I've kept them at 4 for all of those reasons, Jokic has done this once before. So I'm not sure if you remember, but Jokic actually kept them competitive and went up against the defending champions in the first round, or second round a couple of years ago. And it was just him. So Jamal Murray was out with the ACL, and Aaron Gordon was, the second best player as a role player, essentially. Uh, Jokic is so talented. You looked at Serbia in the Olympics, and he made them not only come back historically against Australia, but then competitive and almost beat USA. I just think that talent alone at least deserves him in the 4 slot. The 3 teams I have above Denver are teams that I have above Denver, not individual players that I have above him per se. So,
Well, look, obviously I got Denver on my list already, so I think we agree that they're still gonna avoid that plan.
below Houston.
Anyway, I have at number 4 the reigning Western Conference champions, I guess, the Dallas Mavericks. Yeah, I mean, look, I felt like I would have liked to put them a bit higher, but they feel like a team that cruises a little bit maybe in the regular season. I don't think they really care if they grab the top seed or not at this point. Maybe it's a bit of a early prediction to make that sort of call, but I think that's sort of the personality that they sort of have shown so far, especially with the Luka at the head of that team in that sense. So he'll be like, oh, whatever, we finished in the regular season. I'm here to kick your ass in the playoffs. Yeah. So I think that's the thing there. So. There's probably some little integration challenges there too, just to get Clay Thompson comfortable and sort of doing hopefully what Clay does best in that sort of sense. And they have lost a few little pieces here and there too that just as much as we say they're not huge production players, they're rotational players to a certain extent. So especially Derek Lively, sorry, not Derek Lively. What's his name? Derek Jones Jr. Obviously he was a rotational player last year too. So look, I got Mavs at number 4. That's still home court advantage, I guess, in the West.
So I have them at number 3. So it segues beautifully. I feel like the piece. I too couldn't put them as the first or second seed. I know they just came off a finals appearance, and I know that they beat, the number 1 seed last season. But I just feel like integrating Clay into what they're doing. Obviously, a long postseason run, but also different scouting, right? So Gafford and PJ Washington really caught people off guard, I think, because no one was really scouting for Charlotte and Washington, respectively. And I said this before that now they are. They're going to be properly scouted. And they're going to be treated like a credible threat because they are. Now, is it a Luka revenge tour? Well, that's an aspect as well. And then Kyrie, they have 3 dominant guards in a sense of like any of them have statistically went off for 50 points in a game before. So that's an interesting dynamic that they got to navigate. Um, but yeah, look, I think again, we were having these conversations. We're not going to get to the end of the season, bring this video back up when there's probably a game separating some of these seats. So that's where I
We'll
got
definitely
3.
bring this video back up when the Rockets do make the top 6 and
Yeah, over Phoenix, clearly, because they're not coming up, are they? Unless, you
So
got real love for
at
them.
number 3 I have the T-Wolves.
Phoenix? No, okay.
At the T-Wolves, I think they were one of the 3 teams at the top of the standings really last season with the Nuggets and the Thunder in the West. I think unless something crazy goes wrong there too, they just continue to be poised to be a top Western Conference team for a little while longer here. Yeah, and I'm gonna say a little while longer here. That might hinge actually much more so not only in Ant's progression, okay, but also Mike Conley's aging. Yeah, because I think
Yep.
obviously
Yeah,
the
yep.
reality there is he's probably one that steadies the ship, vet leadership there, and Conley was the guy in Memphis, if you remember all those years, yeah, from Memphis to Utah, and now with the T-Wolves, and clearly now he's on sort of the tail side of his career. And yeah, look, much respect to him in the sense that he really sort of made like that Drew Holiday sort of role for the Celtics there, sort of really make sure the show I think runs well there. So look, they're going to be contenders again, but right now regular season I've got the number 3.
So we're almost playing a nice little zigzag here. So they're my number 2. And the rationale was that they are a little bit of a younger team, Mike Conley aside. And they obviously have a new rookie that they're kind of excited about because they traded up for him in the draft. So there's a bit of integration there, but it has to be the Ant Edwards effect, right? This team really stops or goes based on what Ant Edwards can do. And he had a great season last season, coming off an Olympics, being around all those guys. And also having a pretty successful postseason run. I know that they fell short against Dallas, but there has to be some mentality of they beat a big 3 in Phoenix and they convincingly beat them. And then they go up and go 7 games with the defending champs and beat them as well. I think there was probably just too much. It was almost like that classic young team trope of they overachieved and then they just ran out of gas against Dallas and they didn't realize, the playoffs are long. I don't think people function on that. Like, yeah, you only play 4 different teams if you make it all the way through. But when you beat a team, that's actually almost 2 weeks of your life that you spent on that team. And then you have to do it again and then again and again. And I think they got to the third team and they kind of felt like they'd made it and they got a little bit too assured of themselves. I think they've been humbled and I like what they can do. They've got their twin towers and Naz Reid as the backup. I think bigs really help your regular season records. I think that's an underrated part because shooting's always going to fluctuate, but they're going to be consistently there in the paint. I like the T-Wolves. I've got them at number 2. You don't, but that's okay. Who's at number 2 for you? Because surely we have the same
Pretty,
number 1.
yeah, I think if you listen to me for a while now, you're probably pretty confident you know who I got number 2 since you haven't seen their names yet.
Ah, of
And it
course.
is the Memphis Grizzlies at number 2 because the Memphis Grizzlies are a
Coming
top
all the way back,
4 team
clearly.
in the West. I think we've all forgotten
Oh,
about that. That is a real confident statement that I'm going to make here, but it has been derailed for so many reasons. Yeah, and last season's win-loss total really needs to be just thrown out the window. Yeah, I guess from a front office
of
perspective,
course, yeah.
they're just they're I guess the win-loss total then ended up with Zach Edney there. All right, and that's probably a win for them in that sense to get an experienced young center that's played 4 years at college there to be able to fill that role as a big, which was a bit of a gap, which obviously they then moved Steven Adams on, who was already aging and injured a lot in that sort of sense. So maybe that was the end of his sort of run in the NBA. But the Ja Morant coming back, okay, Desmond Bain coming back, Marcus Smart healthy. At the end of last season, they even weren't even playing, JJ. Yeah, Jaren Jackson wasn't even playing at that point. Okay, so the 20-something wins they won last season is clearly way off the expectation mark. They stay healthy. 50 wins is highly, highly possible. 55 wins probably gets them to that number 2 seed. That's why I got them.
I look. I mean, I had them in my top 6, which I feel like was enough respect. It's the catching teams off guard in the regular season. Um, I just think some of the reservations that I had were as a complete team. I don't like Jaren Jackson against the bigs of Minnesota, so I can't put him over them. Denver as well. I just can't see him
They only
outplaying
play each
Jokic on
other
a
four
consistent
times.
basis.
That's not a huge issue over the course of
No, but
82 games.
what I'm saying is that Denver, Minnesota, that's 2 teams that have better bigs. I'd even put Dallas's bigs in there now that can contain Jaren Jackson because he's not a strong rebounder. So I don't
What
like
did they
that
contain
front
him?
court situation.
Who's going to contain Ja Morant?
I'm
Yeah.
just I'm just saying Ja Morant is obviously an aspect. Well, our number 1 seed has a defensive lineup that will stop
Have you
him.
seen his
But
rating
I
with
just think,
with the ball in hand?
well, okay, we get it. You like Memphis. I'm just saying maybe park it at number 2 because like I think the rationale for me was Ja Morant is an injury risk, right? Irrelevant of the off court controversy, which may have dialed down now. He played 9 games and then he got himself injured again and he was done for the season. Now, potentially tactical, if you go on a conspiracy rant, they were so deep in the hole they thought, why not just punt it? I don't know, but he has Derrick Rose vibes and he's not doing anything to shake that image. And it's also been a couple of years since they gave Golden State a run. And when you talked about me getting hyped about Atlanta,
Mm,
me getting hyped about Indiana,
okay.
you are just as bad, good
No, but
sir.
no, but hold
You are
on.
just as
Whoa,
bad.
whoa, whoa. I feel. Let's take one step backwards here. You were so hyped about Atlanta, And
so
then
hyped.
and then the issue was not suspension. Their issue was not injury. Their issues were generally just team composition and the fact that they probably overachieved if you look back 4 years ago. That's it.
That's cool.
Okay, and
Yeah,
so
that's
so
fine.
there's a huge difference I think between the two scenarios there where you're trying to compare here. So look, I can see you're just
Well,
salty because I don't have the Suns in this list
I'll
clearly, and that's
yeah,
okay
look, the
because
Suns
you know what,
disrespect is fine. Look,
whatever.
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to say my top five from 5 to 1 and how all of them, in my opinion, have a better starting five than Memphis. I think the Suns have a better starting five than Memphis. I
Of
think
course you do. What the
Denver,
hell?
even without Jamal Murray, has a better starting five. I think Dallas
Oh
definitely
my
has a
God!
better
Hold
starting
on! Whoa!
five.
Whoa! 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 Whoa!
I
Whoa!
think Minnesota has a better
What is this
starting
even
five.
based on? This is the part where we say every week, "Where's the stat guy? Can we pull up some warps or some win shares or some crap like that?"
Yep.
What exactly? Do you want to simulate this on 2K? Like I'm not sure
I don't think
what
you
you
want me to simulate anything on 2K, mate.
but
I think
what are you trying to say? I don't understand how you're justifying the fact that you're just ranting off some names of teams that you
because
think are better
let's
starting
pretend
fives than Memphis.
no, because we acknowledge that if you're in the same conference, you're going to play those teams more than the
Okay,
other
yeah, sure,
teams.
sure.
So you're telling me to finish second,
Yep,
right? To finish second, they are
yep,
going to have winning records against the Suns,
yep,
the Nuggets,
yep.
Dallas, and Minnesota. That's essentially like I know that they could theoretically get to the second seed without that, but they probably need to have a winning record against most of those teams to feasibly be in number two,
I don't think
right?
that's
With
too
how close
far-fetched.
the West was
Yep,
last season,
yep.
I think that's ridiculous,
Well,
and I
even
think
two and
you're
two,
ridiculous for it.
even two and
But
two. 2 and 2 is like you take 2 and 2, you just
if
go
they go
move
two
on
and
from
two
that.
against all those teams, they could be sixth or they could be second. I think statistically they are less likely to be second than they are sixth.
I
But
feel, I
that's
feel
the
it.
joy of
I
what we're
feel you
doing.
become very critical about my opinion here. We're at number one, which we're in agreement at least. I can
Number
see.
one, we have to be in agreement because if OKC somehow wasn't in either of our top sixes, what are we doing? They were the number one seed last season with SGA leading the way and Chet having his first season. I think people forget he was a rookie last season because of the whole
Mm.
redshirt thing. They've brought in Caruso. They've brought in Hartenstein. You love what they've done, and you love that the fact that they've kept their roster. And the one piece that they moved out was not fitting in by the end anyway. So I can't see how OKC doesn't maintain the top seed. And the only thing that they're really worried about, or the only thing you would be worried about, is they acknowledge they just want to go further in the playoffs, and the one seed doesn't become the priority, right? Though I don't envision them being a team that chased the one seed and then flamed out in the playoffs because they could have easily been the third seed by the end of the season.
Yeah, look, obviously I got number one. I'm gonna put a number out there, 65. I think the
That's too
Thunder can
high.
win
That's too
65
high.
wins this year. Yeah.
I don't think anyone
Do
wants to win 65 anymore, though.
do
I don't think
do
that's. I don't
do
think that's
they
good.
do they want to win 65? That's another
No,
question. You're definitely saying no. Okay.
definitely saying.
But listen to me here. Hear me out here. Is there not some benefit? Consider this statement here. Is there not some benefit to the superiority that you can establish over your other teams by simply smashing them in the win-loss total? And I think that's probably something like Celtics did subconsciously. There was still a lot of doubt about them being able to get the job done last season. And and that's probably some level justified because they fell short for so many years, either at the conference finals or obviously that year before when they did make the finals against the Warriors. Whereas the Thunder here have not gone to the finals yet. But if they could finish, say, 8 to 10 games above the rest of the West, I think that's a huge psychological bonus. Okay, not only for them, but also for who they potentially might play. And look, at the end of the day, you're right. Maybe 65 is not that important. First seed is great. Okay, whether you get 60 and you get the first seed or 55 and you get first seed, great. Okay, but I think it wouldn't be that far-fetched that they suddenly it all comes together with the additions that they've brought in the roster. The youth continues to develop, and winning just becomes what happens this year in OKC.
Excuse me, you got me mid yawn. It wasn't. It was a great speech. I wasn't
Thank
being
you, thank you,
patronising. I
thank you.
promise. It's just late here, and I've had work all day. So, look, yeah, you're right. Look, I think OKC, in a sense, would want to secure the top seed because it's theoretically your easiest path back to the conference finals because you get to go against the 8th seed, who has to go through the trials and tribulations of the play-in, and then you get hopefully the 4th and 5th seed, right? Because we acknowledged
Thunder goes to the
that the
finals
West
and they have
has
home court advantage. Isn't that huge?
that is what you've got. You know, how different would the NBA Finals have been if Dallas had maintained home court advantage? You know, and Boston's playing on the road. Those are hypotheticals that if you can avoid having, you can avoid having.
Mm.
I think OKC is a young team as well, and that's what helps in the regular season. They're a strong 3-point shooting team. They plugged their gaps. They had a weak-ish defensive lineup in terms of relying heavily on Lou Dort, who got into foul trouble against Luka. So then you run out of options. Now you have 12 fouls to throw at Luka with aggressive defenders. And their big situation, it got exposed that Chet can't really do it all by himself, and they've also addressed that as well in Hartenstein. So you have to just you. It's not often that you look at a team. I think Boston, once they got Drew Holiday, we looked at them saying, well, they have to win it, right? I feel like OKC now is in that conversation for the next season. And the only hard part about that is living up to the expectation or having that pressure on you all season. I think that's because every analyst has them too. Like,
I
and
think,
I wouldn't be shocked most people won't have them number one.
well, look, I think slowly but surely the volume in of expectation will increase in OKC, but it might not be there yet. You saw that with the Celtics and that really young core of Tatum and Brown over all those years. They came in as rookies, drafted by the Celtics, and slowly developed as teammates. And then they got to the conference finals, and for all those years they got to the conference finals. And slowly but surely the pressure began to build. So look, I think right now, if OKC didn't make the finals next season, they make some few tweaks there, and you continue to,
Oh yeah,
you stay on your course, right?
the age,
But yeah, and I
the
think
age is what allows them a window.
yeah,
But
yeah, and I
I
think
think
so I don't think they should feel that huge pressure. I think they should just go out there, win as many games as possible, and then try and lock in the conference finals. Sorry, in the playoffs, obviously, and then the finals, obviously. That's how you'd approach it, at that point.
well, I'm putting that pressure on them.